Michael Harrison, editor of Talkers Magazine, our national Bible. He is kind of the guru for talkers around the country, and he joins us here this morning. He's also a good friend, and great to have him on. Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning, Gary. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
By the way, speaking of that, did you see the movie with Tom Hanks? That's like one of the best movies I've ever seen. Just a good message, and I was just so taken back by, Mr. Rogers and the playing of that by Tom Hanks. But I saw that movie, and it's one of those movies that I just sat down at the end. I felt really good about it, and we need more of that kind of stuff, don't we?
Yeah, certainly. And but then again, any movie with Tom Hanks, you feel good after.
Well, yeah.
They should do a movie about him. What a wonderful actor, and what a great legacy of films he has created. He's sort of like the Jimmy Stewart of our generation,
That's a great comparison. I never thought about that. Yeah, and when he's in a movie, there could be a touch of class to it. There's going to be a touch of class. There's going to be a touch of. I think he plays the part of human beings very well that we recognize on the main streets of our lives, right?
And that's what the arts and that's what movies and television and the literature really are supposed to do. They're supposed to get us back in touch with the human condition, with what it's like to be a human being, and it ties into the material that we deal with here in this medium of talk radio is connectiveness. Be connected together, compare views, try to come up with some consensus of what's reality, and then motivate ourselves to do something about it. Of course, it doesn't always work that nicely.
No, it's a nice thought. It's a neat package, but it doesn't always fit in the same bag together well. It's funny, you kind of segued into what I wanted to talk about. You look at the national scene in America right now, and I was trying to think about if I was to write a book about the national scene today, I might call it a time of upheaval, redefinition, and finding our identity. Just kind of kicking off a little bit of a conversation with you here. It is a time of upheaval. It's a time of redefinition. It's a time of finding our identity. Maybe we have that all the time. I suspect we do in more subtle ways, but in the more graphic, visual ways that we have it right now, I think we are certainly going through some obviously marked changes, to make the understatement of the year, with the COVID thing, and now with the George Floyd protests and other things that are happening around the country, the polarity that we've seen for a long time in our political scene, and even in our social media scene, all of that kind of converging together to make a swirl of uncertainty here, I think, for the United States.
Yeah, it is a time of uncertainty, but you did say something in your setup of that that's very true. Maybe it's always been this way, but only more subtle. The news media, the way our communication system and our political system operate is we tend to focus on things that get attention. We cherry pick the issues.
Yes.
And that brings up a thought I had when you said, if I were to write a book, I'm saying, wow, writing a book about these times, and my thought when you said that was, in keeping with the way media is today, the first thing you'd have to do is target a readership. Target a readership. Isn't that interesting? In other words, if a book is to be written today and you were to go to a publisher, or you could always self-publish, which is actually a smart thing to do today, but if you were to go to a publisher, a legitimate and say, I want to do a book about the times, the first thing the publisher would say to you or ask you is, who are you intending to read this? Who are you targeting this to?
Right.
And then you would craft a book that would create a view of the world that the people you're targeting it to already believe. And you would confirm, you give affirmation to their predisposition. That's the way the media operates today. So you're going to really, if you really want to be an independent, intelligent person, you got to step back and go, okay, how much of this is real and how much of this is targeted to me to get a response out of me and get my attention? And I think it's shocking.
And you just hit something that's really important. I think goes to the heart of some of the problems that we have today is where do people go? People will go to places that reaffirm what they believe. How many people, and again, there's no way of I guess you can try to catalog it. I'm sure people try to do that. But how many people go to places and say, but I want to hear somebody else's point of view. I really want to consider what someone else has to say. Geez, maybe I'm wrong. It doesn't. Our perception today is that people aren't thinking that way. You get around the country, you talk to a lot of people nationally. What's your perception on that?
My perception is that people want information, and we've become addicted to it. And even those that do it. and this is a.
I mean, you and I never do, but other than that, everybody else does. So. sorry, tongue out of cheek now. Go ahead.
But in a way we do, because I am really assuming, and I'm making a giant leap here, that most of the people listening to this broadcast, somewhere within their psychology, are saying, "Hey, that may be true." Mm-hmm. I hadn't thought about that. As opposed to, "Hey, this guy's great. He's saying exactly what I think.
Right.
I like him." And they like me on Facebook. I just said what you think, but I'm saying it as an authority, and now you like me because I seem to like you. Well, where's the truth? Where's the reality?
Right.
And that's what you say. We're a country in search of our identity. Perhaps it's better put, we're a country in search of reality.
Ooh.
In search of some kind of truth.
Yeah, reality and truth often travel in the same boat together. I was reading a quote this morning by Donald Miller, which said, "In the age of information, ignorance is a choice." It's amazing to me, with a blizzard of information that we have now hitting us nonstop, 24/7, like we've never had it before. With our smart devices with us all the time, with people talking at us all the time. In the age of information, ignorance is truly a choice, isn't it? I mean, and so how do you stay away from making ignorance the choice and trying to say, hey, let's find that reality, let's find that truth? What do you have to do as a consumer of news and talk and all those things that you and I deal with on a daily basis?
You have to be skeptical. I think that skepticism is something that educated skepticism is something that I think people should seek and embrace, as opposed to trying to find something to believe in and going with whatever shiny object or whatever suits your ego. And then ego, you've got to be careful not to attach your ego to any particular point of view, because then you'll wind up defending and seeking victory as opposed to truth. You'll be defending something that's a losing idea because you've already argued about it at the dinner table with your uncle and your family. So, your crazy uncle. You gotta don't get too caught up in believing anything. That's what I think is very important, to be a smart consumer of news. And don't be a news junkie. Break away from it. Boy, do I miss sports. Sports played a great role in being a vent for our national pent-up passion. Come on, you have to admit, and I'm going to walk on thin ice saying this, that a lot of the riots and the demonstrations and the outrage and the outpouring on the streets against injustice and big government and all kinds of things, it was just pent-up frustration about being locked in our houses for the last 2.5, 3 months.
And everyone can check out talkers.com, by the way, the Bible of our industry. Michael, we'll talk again very soon. Michael Harrison, editor of Talkers Magazine, with us this morning. Michael, one of the things that struck me also, and it's been part of our fabric for a long time, obviously it's at the very heart of who we are as a country, but symbolism. We talk about our flag, we talk about our money, we talk about all kinds of things that are symbolistic, and yet we seem to be in a time where symbols, the taking of the knee, the tearing down of the Robert E. Lee statue, the pulling down Frank Rizzo's statue in Philadelphia, where we seem to, the symbolism seems to be the end-all instead of the symbols of things that we're concerned about. I wonder if tearing these down is a sign of ignorance or a sign of social progression. And I say ignorance only from the standpoint of saying, these things occurred in our history. Robert E. Lee led Confederate forces. I mean, we can't take that out. And yet, for some reason, we now seem, if we get it out of sight, it'll be out of mind, and therefore, I'm not quite about symbolism, because we seem to really kind of go to that as an end game instead of maybe the beginning of making some real social progress in this country on some of the issues that still are in need of fixing.
Wow, what a whole brain full of stuff you laid on me there. And it's very interesting indeed. I look at it anthropologically, and that is, as human beings, the way we're wired is that we create symbols to express concepts that are beyond our ability to put into words.
Good point.
For example, the money is a symbol of wealth. There's a huge difference between having a pile of $100 bills on your table after, you had the big heist and they got the suitcase full of money.
Right.
The money is not wealth. Wealth is wealth. If you're sitting on an island without any, contact with humanity, Tom Hanks again, Castaway, and you've got a suitcase full of $1 million, you can't eat it. One coconut has more value. So we often Even words, we attach. Look at how loaded certain words have become. The
Right.
N word, the this word, the that word. People are fired for uttering a word because of the symbol of what the word means. The word itself, is just a concept. So yeah, we are hung up on symbols. But, and sometimes we get it the wrong symbol. Sometimes the symbol changes. The term fake news changed over the years, has a different meaning. The taking of a knee. Yeah, I think the key to putting it into perspective is to understand that the symbol is not the real thing. The map of Pennsylvania is not Pennsylvania.
Right.
When you open the map and you're looking at this, that's not Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is too big, too complex, too diverse. There are leaves, there are rocks, there are insects, there are people, there are rivers, there's water, there's weather. It's endless, and what is Pennsylvania? But the map gives us a feeling that's Pennsylvania. We see things symbolically, and symbols are not the real truth. They're not the real experience.
Do you know
They're
what's
not the real meaning.
You always get me thinking when I listen to you. And one of the things that has concerned me, I watched Drew Brees last week, the quarterback for the Saints, who came out and said, hey, he's taken a knee with his fellow teammates before the national anthem, and then he stood up for the national anthem. He said, I've had relatives who served, and I don't believe that taking a knee during the national anthem is something that I would do. And I don't believe that people should do that. And the next day, he's out apologizing because his teammates came down on him, other people came down on him. Of course, we saw Roger Goodell saying we were wrong the way we approached this last time. Now we believe that people should be able to protest. And I looked at Drew Brees, and I was so disappointed from the standpoint of, and this goes to the heart of what we do in talking around the country, that when you express an opinion, it might not agree with somebody else, and yet if you explain why you did it, should there not be at least a respect for the fact that you have reasons for that, and you can still be friends, and yet at the same time you're saying, hey, I'm in solidarity with you, but I don't agree with doing this during a time where I believe the national anthem deserves me standing up. On the other side, you have Colin Kaepernick, and I didn't agree with the fact that he took a knee during the national anthem, but I have great respect for the fact that he did that. He has paid great consequences as a result of that, and yet he never apologized. And he doesn't have to apologize in my book because the standpoint was, this is what I believe, this is why I believe it, this is why I'm doing this, and it might not make sense to you, it makes sense to me. I think we're in a very dangerous place in our country right now with the beating down of another point of view. What are your thoughts on that? About a minute and a half left.
Oh, I'm a free speech freak. I'm a First Amendment guy.
I'm there with you.
It's extremely dangerous. I think it's extremely dangerous. It also is hypocrisy. I mean, look at Roger Goodell. Now, I'm all for changing your mind in the face of new facts, but it's suddenly not so convenient. It's suddenly not so convenient now that there's a change of mood in the public. The mood has changed, so now Roger Goodell has changed the official policy.
And it's called, I'm making $64 million a year, and I want to keep my salary, right?
Right, and that's what happened with Drew Brees. Drew Brees did was basically make a statement for the flag, but he did it at a time when making a statement in support of the flag indicates that you're not supporting Black Lives Matter and the current movement.
Right.
The mood has changed, and it angered his teammates so that it became inconvenient for him to have that position. It would ruin they wouldn't follow him as the leader. They wouldn't accept him as the quarterback. And It's not like at this age of 40 years old, it's a given that he's that powerful. He had to change it so he can keep his job.
Reality set in. Yeah. And that is so important what you just said, because I know someone's been in this industry for a while. It's what you don't say and when you don't say it sometimes. It's also as important as what you do say and when you do say it. About 20 seconds, final thoughts.
Well, that's called, that means be smart and keep your mouth shut. And sometimes keeping your mouth shut is the most expedient form of free speech.
Always the words of wisdom, my friend. Always the words of wisdom. Michael, always good talking to you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being with us today. And everyone can check out talkers.com, by the way, the Bible of our industry. Michael, we'll talk again very soon.